Okay, here is an animation by Sben. They've asked me to help them understand how to maintain consistency and volume in their drawings. So I'm going to use this as my sort of guinea pig, and I'm going to animate over it and sort of like make their drawings more consistent. That's what I'm going to do. I don't know what you're going to do, but that's what I'm doing. So I start by animating at the speed of light right here. This is not sped up. It's just how fast I draw normally. And basically what I'm doing is I'm taking 3 isolated keyframes that are pretty far apart from each other. That's the most important thing, is that they're far apart from each other. And I am sort of drawing over them and making these very solid drawings, focusing on the shapes, because when you're doing the rough animation, you're more focused on the gesture and the movement, and when you're doing this I guess tie down phase, you're focused on the solid shapes themselves. So that's what I focus on. And yeah, I'm very fast. I'm going at the speed of light right now. I flipped the canvas to sort of fix any errors I never noticed, and I got this character from the show that I sort of traced over to kind of have as a guide for how big everything is. And this is the big trick. Okay, this is the big trick. What happens is, when you animate stuff, you like to flip back and forth. You don't have the onion skin on. You just flip back and forth, and you just check what happened in the last frame. And you're basically doing that right here. You're doing that right here. So you're flipping back and forth with the character. The character's like standing pose, and it's really a fast way to like help understand the size of everything. Like, you don't have to have it on the side of your screen and look back and forth. It's right there on the previous frame. And once you've done, those few frames, you can just do the frames in between them, and you could just do those. And you don't have to worry about the movement that much, because you've already animated the movement. And the drawings you're drawing are so far apart that the movement is sort of inconsequential at this stage. You're just focused on maintaining a consistent form between everything. And what I'm doing now, which has already started, is I'm drawing the frames in between, and I'm sort of linking them all together. There will be things in the rough animation that are inconsistent in size or in space, and basically what you just want to do is sort of like blend the frames that you glue together by getting the 2 frames that you had, and you put them side by side, sort of like how you do an in-between frame, and make them all the same size, and you just flip back and forth. And just do that, and it sort of snowballs down. Yeah, you just keep doing that. You just grab the 2 frames, put them next to each other, make them same size, and then you draw the frame in between. It could be an in-between frame, it could be a breakdown frame, it could be a key pose, and you just do that. I find that in general, you should try and animate with in-betweens in mind. It takes some practice to do, but in-betweens are something that sort of link all the frames together in this like interpolation that sort of makes everything blend together and look very solid. I think if you draw too many frames, like too many like unique keyframes, you run the risk of like making this like really wobbly animation that sort of like everything grows and shrinks each frame, and it looks kind of weird. I could be honest, it looks kind of weird. Okay, so I did that. She's fallen to her death, and now I'm just sort of trying to match up with Sben's original animation so that you can like compare them. I think if you need animators to look at that are very good at maintaining consistency, obviously look at Takeshi Honda, Hiroyuki Okura, James Baxter, Toshiyuki Inoue, real life, outside. Those guys are really good at that. One thing I noticed Takeshi Honda does a lot is what I just mentioned before, where he has like an in-between frame between most of his frames, and they're sort of like linked together. Like his drawings don't need to be perfect, because if you have two imperfect drawings and you blend between them, it feels more consistent than if you have three drawings that are inconsistent, because you're not blending between them. I don't know if that makes sense. You just have to see what I'm talking about by looking at his work. Okay, go look at it, and here it is. I didn't edit any of the movement. I just wanted to show you like how the consistency thing works. Obviously you can make it more detailed yourself, but I just wanted to get this done. I animated that in 7 minutes. I'm pretty fast, not gonna lie. But now I wanna animate over it, because I think that it's lacking something. I think that it's lacking the springiness of life, not of life, but like liveliness to it. So I think to demonstrate it, I'm going to just draw each body part isolated by itself, so that you can see what I'm trying to show you. So the basis of everything to me is the torso. The torso is like this springy like bag that likes to kind of like lead into everything by kind of bending back and forth. In real life we don't really do that very much, but I think in animation it looks really nice. And the more you make the torso spring in these sort of big movements, it ripples through the rest of the body, like you see here with the legs. The torso has influence over the legs, and you can sort of, I'm sort of animating them like kicking around a bit, and like trying to like be like, we need to get over there, so like let's kind of like kick at the air a bit and push ourselves over there. So how do I explain this? Like the body has sort of like a hierarchy of importance, I think. The torso and the legs are the highest of importance to me, because the torso is like the center of everything. It's where everything like stems from, like a big star or something, big starfish. And then the legs, they're like your wheels. Like they want to get you places and help you balance and help you just move around. And your arms are like kind of like they want to make sure you're staying upright. They want to make sure you're getting where you need to go. I think they're quite impatient little creatures. They're like we need to get there now. So they want to lead your body places. If you ever do a sit-up or something, like your arms, if you're not doing with your arms behind your head, your arms will kind of like fling themselves in front of you, because they're like, we need to get up, We need to get up right now. So we're going to fling ourselves in front, and you know, they're like, we need to get there now. So that's what they do. They help you keep balance. They take you they try and take you places with the force that they have, the little force they have. And you can express a lot of emotion with each of these body parts. You know, even the torso, you can express a lot by making it bounce. I don't think I did that much in this shot, but yeah. So I'm basically just doing that. The head isn't as important. The head is important for like dialogue and stuff, but for something like this, it just sort of exists. It's just there. So I sort of like animate the arms in like this kind of like swimming motion, where it's like trying to push through the air and then balance at the very end. So it's quite rough. I'd usually, you know, make it look a bit nicer, but I just sort of wanted to demonstrate how you could improve this movement. And that's all for this one. That's all. Okay, so this animation was submitted by Lunja, and she just asked me about what the next step up would be, you know, what she could improve on. She didn't ask anything specifically, and I really do like this animation. It's got a lot of depth to it. I think the movement is really nice. I think there's nice shading. It's very funny, and I've watched it many times. I love that first cut so much. It's like he's just screaming, and then he just looks at you, and then he starts screaming again. And so basically all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just make an animatic, which you'll see here. And basically I have nothing to change about the animation. I don't want to change it. I want to use this as a way to display some, I guess, something that is overlooked in animation, which is the framing of everything, in the direction, because I guess it's easy to get kind of sucked in by the movement you're creating. But we need to think about the composition as well, because that's very important. It's important to display sort of your ideas in a way that is easy to understand on an initial viewing. And so basically what I'm doing here is I'm making some, I guess, thumbnail, like storyboard things of like how I want the composition to look. I've set up like a rule of thirds guide thing, because I think for a lot of these final cuts that Lunja made, the composition feels a little bit off to me. I like most notably in this final cut where the character sort of is on the right side of the screen and there's just a big empty space. There's no background, which makes it especially more empty feeling. And it feels like there is no horizon line, but it looks like it's flat. And I think one thing about a horizon line is that a flat horizon line in an action scene is very dull. You can do it, of course, but I like to tilt the horizon because it sort of makes everything feel a lot more dynamic and three-dimensional. Now, if you're wondering like, okay, well, how do I know which direction to tilt the horizon line? Think of it sort of like a seesaw. You know, the focal point, the largest thing, whichever side it's on, make it go downwards. And it's like a seesaw. If they go to the other side of the screen, make that side go downwards. You know, tilt the camera again. I think a cockatoo was outside and I was admiring it, which is why this paused. But yeah. So basically, the first step after you make these storyboards is you need to have the background there, because while animating the characters is definitely the most fun part, they need to be standing on something, and just taking the time to draw a background first really will help you in, you know, the animation process, because they just need something to stand on. And right now, I don't really think what I'm doing is animating. I am sculpting, I guess. I'm sculpting the composition. I'm sculpting a scene. I don't have a very good imagination. You know, I can't spin the elephant in my brain. I can't spin an apple in my head. I just see nothing. There's nothing in there. So I really need to put something on my page so I can look at it and be like, ah, yes, this is a decent idea of what the scene will be once I start animating it. So if you're like me and your imagination is really bad, don't worry about that. You know, you can still create a lot of very crazy stuff. Just, you know, don't dive right into the animation. You know, get some sort of foundation in. You know, sculpt the scene. Like even here, I'm coming up with ideas. I'm thinking, oh, there should be like some dust, like in Lunja's version, but like maybe it'll like twist. And maybe like the rings will they'll just be huge, these huge rings on the horizon, while the dust is like kind of leading your eye towards where the character is going to be next. And that brings me to one of the most important things about action scenes is leading the audience's eye around the screen. It's not really easy to watch something going fast if you don't know where to look. You know, if you read a really good manga, like One Piece or Dragon Ball, you know, your eyes kind of glide across the page, and that's sort of what I'm trying to replicate here. I'm trying to create focal points. I'm trying to create lines of action that will lead your eye where it needs to be. So if you see here, the character moves towards the top third area in the top left. And there's like rings pointing out of that spot, and there's like a trail of dust leading your eye towards where he just went. And in the next cut, your eye will already be where the character is in that next cut, because they start out in the left side of the screen. And the reason I changed it so that the camera tilts up in that cut is because in this next cut we're getting this very low angle on the bread loaf thing. So I want to have a little bit of, I guess, context, you know, to set up this next cut. So the camera sort of is like getting tilted upwards, getting ready to look up at this character, you know. In the original, it is pointed down at this guy running, and then it immediately is pointing up at this character, and it's just a little bit jarring. It's not bad, but I think you could add a bit more flow to it. I think you could, you know, I noticed that there was like some sun in that cut as well, so I really want to make them look very large by sort of making the sun spin around this character. And, you know, in the previous cut there's like a big ring, and I sort of start off by zooming in on the sun because it's the same shape, and I zoom out, and then I pan the camera again so that the character is on the left side of the screen, because in the next cut they start on the left side of the screen and are pushed to the right side of the screen, and then they're pushed back because the screaming guy, he comes flying in. And I wanted to create a sort of dolly zoom effect with this because I think that it just looks cool, but also we can establish this other character, you know, the guy who's running, we can establish his speed without making him move very much on screen, because when things are far away they move a bit less, and when they're close they move more. And if we are very zoomed in, then both of the characters' sizes are more relative to each other, and it can still feel like he's going very fast because the ground is moving, but because it's so zoomed in, we can take in a lot more information. And then right at the end of the cut, the camera zooms out again, and it becomes like a more like, I guess like exaggerated pose, because there's more perspective. Yeah, so I think I tried my best to keep all of the same ideas. I liked the sort of anticipation in this cut where it's like the cameraman is sort of like flung backwards, and then everyone gets smaller, and there's like this big cloud of dust as like an anticipation before the character comes bursting in. But I just wanted him to be on screen a little bit longer, because I think it's very important to consider like what the audience is thinking and if they can understand what they're looking at. So I guess just think of things like, if I was watching this and I only watched it once, would I have been able to take in every detail of the scene, or would I have been confused? I think you need to really consider what the audience is thinking about when they're watching your work, because it just, you know, you have the ability to display so much information, so you should display it well, and you should just, if you have some good ideas, I want you to try and emphasize them as best you can. Now obviously this is just an animatic to me. I would go over this and animate it properly afterwards, and you know, because I have a terrible imagination, this is just like a proof of concept where it's like, oh, this is what it would look like. Now I can animate it for real. You know, there's obviously some things about it I would change while I'm animating it, but the general composition and everything I'd like to keep the same. But yeah, I hope that helped. I